rise, drop, they will get the top of you. Boom, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the wall. Rise, to think of something different. Oh, God, me from going lunatic. Boom, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the world.
Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to another Sketch and Review, where I draw something from whatever it is I'm reviewing. And this episode is brought to you by 28 Years Later, currently playing in theaters, or if you're watching this in the future, it's currently playing on streaming, which usually happens about a week after a movie comes out, so I gotta get to these quick. For anyone keeping up with the artwork, I'm just doing a basic zombie. I think I've drawn more zombies throughout my life than pretty much anything. Well, maybe except for lewd demon girls. I mean, I have my favorite things to draw, and what can I say? I have issues. But for this drawing, I'm just doing a few layers instead of my usual 100 layers. I got my shading and line art on the bottom layer and highlights on a layer above it. I'm using the pencil tool at 0% hardness and switching between like 15% opacity to 40% opacity for both the shading and highlight layers. Just really super simple, nothing too crazy. So let's talk about the movie. 28 Years Later is the third film in the 28 Days Later series, or 28 Days series? Is 28 Days Later a series? Well, it is now. About a viral outbreak in the UK that turns people into flesh-hungry monsters, not zombies. Well, yet. The first and second films established that these aren't really zombies. Well, not traditional zombies, but they're basically zombies, since they're infected with something called the rage virus. And, unlike their undead counterpart, they can run, and oh boy, can they run. How does 28 Years Later fit into the series? Before delving into it, I have to note that Danny Boyle, the director of this film and the first one, said that he doesn't consider canon to be something rigid that needs to be followed to a T. Now, I kind of get what he means, but at the same time, that also builds inconsistency. I only say that because this movie kinda lightly contradicts the events of 28 Weeks Later, where it's alluded to that the virus spread worldwide. Here, the viral outbreak only happened in the UK, and the entire country is quarantined. Now, they did have characters in the movie mention that the virus got pushed back, but it's still sort of a, did it really happen, or is Danny Boyle distancing himself from 28 Weeks Later since he didn't direct it? It just felt like a strange take to not acknowledge the global spread of the virus. But that's not what this movie is really about. It's just kind of a minor nitpick that I had. I kind of like canon consistency, stuff to follow a plot along without retcons. Alien Covenant. No. 28 Years Later is set up as a direct continuation of the events of 28 Days Later. Almost got tongue-tied there. After the rage virus wiped out the entire UK. It sees a group of survivors take up a community on a nearby island connected to the mainland by a land bridge that's accessible when the tide is low. When the tide is too high, you're kind of stuck. It's a clever way to explain how these people are able to stay unaffected by the virus. Now, in order to keep their village in working condition, they need supplies, and that all comes from the mainland, which brings us to our main character, Spike. Spike's dad, Jamie, thinks it's time for his son to go on his first outing to the mainland at the behest of the village leaders, which think Spike is too young. See, Spike is only 12, and the average age to go out in this coming-of-age manhood ritual is 15, or around 15, 16. Jamie says, "Fuck you, we're going," and that's that. Honestly, I was expecting a bit more pushback and drama, But I guess to move the plot along, they just kind of went with it. They just kind of let him go. Like, there was no arguing, no, he's too young, he's this, the Jedi Council says you can't train yet kind of thing. No, they just kind of let him do it. That was, I don't know, kind of strange that that they even brought up the age in the first place. Like, if it's not that big a deal, then why even mention it? Anyway, the only caveat being that once you leave, no one will help you if you get in trouble. So after you leave this island, they close the doors, big old double, wooden gates, lock it, and you're kind of on your own, since they've lost people that have gone out in search parties looking for other people in the past. So now, if you go out on your own, going to go hunt, going to get supplies, you either make it back or you don't. The first half of the film centers around Spike learning how to survive with the obligatory kill it son, it's not human anymore scene from his dad, where they have this zombie kind of hanging upside down, and, I'm sorry, not zombie, and his dad, Spike's dad tells him, this is your chance, kill it, prove you can handle situations like this and be a man kind of scene. And of course, there's the typical tropey hesitation part, which, I mean, you can see it coming, but at the same time, it's still, it was still cool. It was, anyway, it was a scene. I'll just move along. But, yeah, as far as coming-of-age stories go, it's pretty par for the course. That, however, doesn't last long, as we learn early on that Spike's mom is sick, and then he later learns about a doctor that lives on the mainland. When he's out with his dad, he kind of sees a fire off in the distance and asks, hey, what's that? Dad says, oh, it's nothing, it's just a fire. So Spike asks, well, who built this fire? And the dad kind of dismisses it. But Spike's now curious and starts asking. So once Spike and his dad get back to the island, Spike sneaks off with his mom to go find the doctor on the mainland, which is the rest of the second half of the movie. So really, it's the first half of a father teaching his son how to hunt and how to survive that turns into son trying to save the mom. I've heard other people say that it felt like two different movies, but honestly, the tone never really changed. The second half was just as tense as the first half, even if it slowed down a bit. As for that bonkers ending, I honestly didn't feel like it was out of place. I mean, the movie does kind of have a strange filming and directing style. And yes, it was a bit wacky, but it still felt tonally connected. The plot itself is pretty run-of-the-mill, but where it really shines is in the presentation. What I like about this, as well as 28 Days Later, is that it's one of the few horror movies that truly feels tense and stressful to watch. Horror should not be safe, easy, or a relaxing time. The action scenes are sporadic but easy to follow with this kind of cool, semi-Matrix bullet time throwback to some of the kills. I always appreciate a good focus on gore. And the in-your-face screaming, jittery camera, fast movement of the infected just added to the tension. I always loved how 28 Days Later put the viewer in a place where it seemed like, how fast shit could hit the fan with no time to catch your breath. Danny Boyle did that again here, and he did it beautifully. This is not a movie to sit back and relax to. At the same time, there are some truly stunning shots, especially a scene at night where Spike and his dad are running for their lives against a clear night sky while being chased across the flooded land bridge by what we're introduced to is an alpha zombie, an alpha infected. And that scene was in complete contrast to the rest of the movie, where most of the film took a realistic approach. But again, that scene, it looked like a fantasy painting, and it's probably my favorite scene of any movie in recent history. Yeah, I'm trying to think about anything else that kind of stood out that I've seen lately. And no, the running across the land bridge with the whole, clear, you can see the Milky Way night sky in the background was just beautiful. Another thing this movie introduced us to is the notion that the infected are evolving, with the aforementioned alpha being a leader type that can control runners, shamblers, and crawlers. And the different variations made me think that Danny Boyle had been playing a bit too much Left 4 Dead or Dead Island. I mean, I kind of want to see him do a Dying Light movie. I think that'd be kind of cool. Like, I was honestly expecting bloaters and tanks at one point. There was It was a bit video gamey at times, I'm not gonna lie. This movie also isn't without a few hiccups. For one, there's spliced in footage of other older films showcasing medieval warfare, meant to allude to the fact that these people have reverted back to tower defense tactics, using weapons like bows and arrows instead of guns. Then out of literally nowhere, we get a straight-up Resident Evil-style military squad with full-on automatic rifles and a kick-ass scene that, you know, despite how cool it was, had zero lead-in. Like, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I mean, it's cool, but a little bit of context would have been nice. Luckily, this was explained since one of the survivors does become a character that ends up joining Spike and his mom in the second half, and his brief screen time becomes our link to the outside world. So yeah, it was a great scene, but just kind of poorly placed. I kind of figured they were going to explain it at some point. It's like, it just turned into a whole nother movie as soon as this paramilitary squad showed up. But I'm like, all right, let me give it a couple minutes. It'll probably explain itself. And it did. Again, it was just really jarring and really badly out of place. And really, that's kind of my only issue with the movie. It's beautiful, well shot, has some of my favorite zombie action scenes, and getting back to zombies, yes, they finally do call them zombies. And at that point, it actually is well placed in the movie. And also, the movie itself is well paced, I'll say. But the inclusion of the old movie footage and riot footage just seemed a bit too art house and kind of not needed. I think the film would have been fine without it, and the message would still have gotten across. I mean, it's very much not a typical Hollywood movie, and I appreciate that. But the shoved in stock footage just came across as unnecessary and kind of forced. And, oh, I almost forgot. Yes, I didn't want to talk about this, but you can't avoid it. I'll just say, yes, there's zombie dick and zombie boobs, and spoiler alert, a full-on zombie giving birth to a baby. So, if you haven't seen spoilers on the internet by now, here's your spoilers. And yeah, you heard me right. Zombie dick and zombie baby. Honestly, I didn't think anything of the graphic nudity, since I thought the bloody violence took center stage more, but also it makes sense that after 28 years, clothing would have torn or rotted off, and honestly, why would these creatures give a shit if they're naked or not? At the same time, I work in healthcare, so seeing naked people in gore is just a typical Tuesday for me. But I guess some people were bothered. Again, I was too focused on the action, story, and cinematography than zombie tits or zombie dick. Yes, it's there. And if you're okay with heads getting blown apart and guts being pulled out, but a naked body bothers you, you really need to reevaluate your priorities. Anyway, yeah, I liked it a lot despite its flaws. Is it my favorite zombie movie of all time? No, but it's up there. I still think 28 Days and 28 Weeks are better. Dawn of the Dead 2004, The Crazies, let me see, Wreck, Dead Snow, and Planet Terror are on my top must-watch zombie films. Same with Zombie by Lucio Fulci. It's also a classic. Still, with all that said, 28 years later is a worthy but flawed addition to the genre. So, yeah, if you get a chance to see it, definitely check it out. It's not the best zombie movie ever, but it's not terrible. It certainly isn't Oasis of the Dead. My God, that was a piece of shit if I ever saw one. Anyway, let me know in the comments your favorite zombie movies. I can talk about zombie movies and zombies in general just nonstop. And if you like what I do and want to see more, please hit that like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.